The summer before I left for college, I was head lifeguard on the beach at Pirates Point. I don't think real pirates ever landed there, but the name made me think that strange and mysterious things could happen right where I lived. I grew up on that peninsula, and it was my home. I never found it monotonous, staring across the sea, but instead, I liked to think of what lay beyond, how someday perhaps I'd sail to the other side. The beach was a long strip of what had once been white sand, but was now beginning to turn darker and less pristine. It was lined with striped umbrellas and beach chairs. I loved the gentle easing of the beach umbrellas into the sand, the smell of copper tone on my skin, the way people looked up when I blew my whistle, their faces always with a slight look of terror that one of theirs had been swept up, ever since the drowning of Billy Mandel. For 4 years of my youth, I was the lifeguard there. I'd watched this beach, where I'd spent my summers as a boy, red bucket and shovel in hand, fill with more and more umbrellas. I had watched the boys who were lifeguards turn flabby. I had seen Rick Spencer, who had ruled this beach before me for half a decade, lose his hair, and I'd seen the slim bodies of women stretch with childbearing. I'd seen it all, and it had not impressed me, but rather it flowed through me like a river, not stopping here. I was 18 then. I wore zinc oxide on my nose, a whistle around my neck, number 4 copper tone covered my body. I could lift a girl into the air with each arm, and I loved to walk the beach, a girl dangling from each bicep. Girls clung to my stand like the shipwrecked to their raft, and I could do no wrong. It would have been a perfect summer for me, were it not for Mrs. Lovenheim. Every day at the same time, about 10 in the morning, Mrs. Lovenheim came. She never had to ask me to set up her red and white umbrella because she always came at the same time each day, so I was ready for her. Mrs. Lovenheim stretched out like a cat, opened a book, which she held open at almost the same page every day, and stayed like that for hours, then went away. She never went near the water or sat in the sun. She never walked to the hot dog stand, but instead just stayed beneath her umbrella, straw hat on her head. That was all she did, except it seemed as though Mrs. Lovenheim never took her eyes off of me. She was perhaps only 30 then, but seemed very old. She had flaming red hair and a small, compact body. She'd been married to a real estate broker who'd dropped her, my mother told me, after she'd miscarried 2 babies. She could not hold them, my mother whispered to me one evening in a darkened corner of the den where my own father had drunk beer and watched TV sports, until he died suddenly during a winter storm and this secret world of women seemed ever closed to me.